the past couple of decades, I've been making films, many of which are for the educational institutions across America, Jewish and non-Jewish. It's amazing to see the stark differences between the kinds of issues that the Jewish school systems are dealing with and what the greater population is dealing with. I can tell you right now that the kinds of issues that the Jewish education system is working on are the nuanced, different educational missions of positive morals and refining character and extra study. It's not the, frankly, scary kinds of things that our children in public schools are exposed to. That's terrifying to me. It's shocking to me that we have to deal with the level of teenage suicide and inappropriate behavior that goes on in the world at large.
If somebody is smart and is educated, I don't know why they don't send their kids to the best yeshiva they can find, no matter how much it costs. Why they don't send even smart people? I think number one is just not thinking, just being too busy with their businesses and just do everything everybody else does without looking at the results, without looking at the statistics, without looking at hard facts. And like anything else, they put their health on the side. Unfortunately, we all do. You know, they get too busy to exercise. We get too busy to eat right. We get too busy to sleep well. You know what? We also get too busy to take care of our children and their education.
The Jewish tradition is built on a foundation of morals. So the teachers in a Jewish school are there to reinforce those messages. The people who are chosen to teach the children in the Jewish schools are the epitome and the paragon of proper morals and conduct. The kinds of men and women that have taught my children, and frankly, the men and women that have taught me as a child in the Jewish school systems, were people that I could genuinely look up to, people who have perfected their morals, their integrity.
In terms of the types of students that I see coming across and that I've managed to teach throughout the years, what has struck me about those who have had the Orthodox Yeshiva background is that they come in with a value system where they have a pretty good sense of what's right and what's wrong. They have a pretty good sense of where they're going, not just career-wise, but also as people. What do they want to look like in the future? What do they want their families to look like in the future, other than having several cars and maybe a boat or an airplane? It's like, what do they want their people to be? What do they want their family to be? And that's something that's distinct, because the people who are trained in, let's say, grade school and high school, in institutions that don't have a religious background, basically there's not much attention being paid to what's right, to what's wrong, to goals that mean something in terms of your group, your religion, your family. It's more like what will pay more, where will we be able to get more fun, how will we be able to get a greater kick out of life.
I never went to a public school, so I can't speak to what kinds of teachers that are there. But if a person's applying for a job in a public school, they have to be able to teach. It doesn't speak to their character necessarily, because that's not what their job is. In a Jewish school, they are imparting the values, the morals, the integrity that is taught, and therefore they need to represent those same morals and values.
The statistics shows like in public schools, about 1/3, about 34% or 35% of kids cannot pass the government tests. In my son's school, everybody very easily, they pass their boards and their regions and all those, they have no problem taking, and they do much better than average public school kids. I mean, like, forget about, look at the statistics. I'm a man of science. I've been grown up all my life, to be a scientific person, to think and look at the actual hard facts. And I see the facts for myself. Besides my so-called clinical experience with my own children, I can see the fact and statistics and the research. They're doing much better. They're all very smart. They're all doing very nicely. I used to think I'm smart when I got to medical school and I came from Iran and I made college in 2.5 years and then got to dental school. Fine, but I sit down and many times I learn with some of my friends in Yeshiva school, and they it's hard to keep up with them. As much as I thought I was smart, it's for me very difficult to keep up with good Yeshiva boys.
I went to schools that had dual curriculum my entire life. Elementary school, high school, and post-high school were always dual curriculum. I never saw that any one of my colleagues or my classmates suffered from their opportunities because of the Jewish education they got. It was exactly the opposite. The rigors of the Jewish education, which created the critical thinking skills and all of the problem-solving skills, only aided them in their further pursuits, education and career and otherwise.
I think particularly in my law school years, my ability to dissect and understand how to read Talmudic discussions was very helpful to me.
When we see applicants who come in with a religious education background in general, and in particular, especially when it comes to law, those who come in with an Orthodox Jewish educational background, we light up because we know those are usually fiery candidates who bring with them, first of all, an ability to think outside of the box and to be able to evaluate what they learn rather than to just spit it back. And second of all, that come with actual value systems rather than the idea of doing what is expedient or what is it that pays more.
I can understand the way that people might think. Hey, I have a Jewish home. I'm trying to teach my children Jewish values. So let them go to a public school during the day, and at home every single day they'll come back to my nice Jewish little environment in my home. But we can see that it's not enough. I know I have relatives in my own family that did not pursue a Jewish education, and it doesn't take long for it to be lost. It's just not strong enough. The bottom line is it's just not enough.
I think it's a very monumental decision. It's a question of where your kid's going to be in 20 to 30 years from now. It's the difference between, retaining your heritage and losing it. I feel very strong about the fact that I come from a certain heritage, and, I can, think of myself as a child of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. It's our heritage, and it's the kind of heritage I want to pass down to my kids. And it won't happen. It just won't happen if you let other people's cultures and their ideas, come in. Particularly in the marriage context, it just doesn't work.
And it is sad to see that happening nowadays. And it's even more sad to see second generation children that's happening to them. I see, Baruch Hashem, I have a few good children, and I see the way they come along, and I see some of my friends who they did not have the same, they weren't just as lucky as I was, and I see how their kids are coming around, and sometimes you see these kids in anywhere in the stores, and you wonder, you can't even tell if they're Persian or they're Spanish or they're Israeli or they're and it's like, it's such a shame.
There's no question that the amount of hours and the friends and the teachers and the influence that happens all day in a school is going to have as much or greater impact than what the home that the child goes to every day. It's simply not enough to be living in a Jewish home. They need Jewish education to retain those Jewish identities and morals.
I definitely am sensitive to the fact that it's very expensive. I have 5 kids. I'm paying full tuition, and I know it's very, very expensive. And I know a lot of people who struggle through it, and I think, but look, there are people who try to help, particularly parents who are struggling and parents who are trying to make the move from from public school to bring them into a Jewish education.
Private school is expensive. There's no question about it. There is no better investment that I can possibly think of than to put my children through a proper and healthy school system. That was the most valuable thing I could have ever spent my money on. So sure, we pay money for things that we really care about. What could be more important than my child's future? So yeah, I'll spend the extra money on the private education. It's not like it's really a choice. The alternative is a potential disaster. I'm not willing to take that as a risk. Why would anybody want to take that as a risk?
Jewish education is a little bit more expensive, but there's a price for everything. it's well worth it. I know I paid for it, and it was well worth it. At the end, you come ahead. Because yes, you do pay a little bit more ahead of the time, but you at the end, you have a son or a daughter that you can trust. You can trust their yeses. That when they say, yes, I know something, you can trust that. When they say, no, I don't know something, you can trust that. And also when they say, I don't know, I'm sure, you can trust that, and they come to you when they're not sure about something. So you really don't lose. But yet, there's a price to pay. That's true. You can't afford not to do it. You just can't afford not to do it. It's going to cost you a lot more in the long run. It's just not worth it.